You know, most AI courses teach you how to talk to an AI. This explainer, we're going to teach an AI how to work. We're going way beyond simple chatbots to build something that actually has a goal, an AI agent that can perform real tasks. So let's dive right in. So what's the real difference? I mean, what are we talking about here? Well, a chatbot just replies. That's it. An AI agent, on the other hand, it decides, it acts, it remembers, and super importantly, it recovers when things break. It's not just a one-shot response to your prompt. No, it's all about pursuing a goal, running through a multi-step loop, and using tools to actually interact with the world. All right, so here's our game plan. First, we're going to take a chatbot and turn it into a basic agent. Then, and this is crucial, we'll build a safety net around it. After that, we'll give it hands so it can act, a mind so it can remember, and finally, we'll teach it how to think strategically instead of just reacting. It's going to be a fun build. Okay, first up, moving from a chatbot to an agent. Let's get into the core loop that makes this whole thing tech. So an AI agent really isn't magic. It's just a loop, but it's a super powerful one. Observe, think, act. First, it takes a look around. It observes the current situation. Then it thinks, using that big brain of the AI model to figure out the best next move. And finally, it acts. That could be executing a tool, asking you a question, or just giving you the final answer. This cycle, this observe, think, act, it's literally the heartbeat of every single agent out there. All right, next up, Section 2, building the safety net. We're going to talk about why a reliable engine has to come first before you do anything else. Okay, listen, because agents are calling a model over and over and over in a loop, you will hit these three failures. I guarantee it. You're going to hit rate limits, timeouts, and random API errors. And if you don't have a plan for them, your agent is just going to crash. End of story. So what's the solution? We call it the engine. The best way to think about it is like a circuit breaker for your AI. It's this reliability layer that wraps every single call to the model. Its only job is to handle these failures gracefully, to stop your agent from crashing, getting stuck in an infinite loop, or, and this is a big one, running up a crazy bill. And these guardrails are super practical. Max retries, that just means it'll automatically try again a few times if something fails. Timeout seconds, that stops it from just hanging forever if the network is slow. And request budget, this one's a lifesaver. It's a hard spending cap, so a bug in your code can't just silently drain all your money. This is how you build a real, robust system, not just a fragile demo. Okay, our safety net is built. Now we can move on to the fun stuff in Section 3, how agents act. Let's give this thing some hands. And this brings up a really important question, right? Why do agents even need tools? I mean, can't this super powerful language model just do everything itself? Well, the answer is a hard no. Look, large language models are amazing at text, but they are not reliable for exact actions. Think about precise math or looking up a very specific piece of data. That's where tools come in. Tools let the model delegate those tasks to simple, trusted code that gets it right every single time. And you have to understand, this changes everything. A normal pipeline is like a one-way street. If it fails, okay, it fails once. But an agent, that's a continuous loop. And its biggest risk by far is looping forever. That's exactly why those safety caps we put in our engine are absolutely non-negotiable. All right, so our agent is safe and it can act. Now for part 4. Let's give the agent a mind, using memory and something called grounding. So as you talk to an agent for longer and longer, you run into this problem called context rot. Basically, the chat history gets bloated, it gets filled with noisy, irrelevant stuff, and it gets super expensive to send back to the model every single time. The performance just starts to degrade. Shoving the entire chat history in on every turn, it just doesn't work long term. So how do we solve this? With a much smarter two-cart memory system. You've got a rolling summary that just keeps the recent part of the conversation, the narrative, and then you have a durable state, which stores only the key facts, like user preferences or open questions. This is how you separate the important signal from all that noise. Now, the other half of the agent's mind is what we call grounding. And we do this with a technique called retrieval augmented generation, or RAG for short. The best way to think about it is like giving the agent an open book test. We give it a specific set of documents, a knowledge base, and we force it to find answers in there instead of just guessing or, making stuff up. And this leads to the core discipline of a production-ready RAG system. The golden rule is this. If the answer isn't in those documents you gave it, the agent must say, I don't know.
That single principle is probably the most powerful tool we have for cutting down on AI hallucinations and actually building trust with our users.
Okay, we're at our final layer now, section 5. We're going to move from just reacting to things to having a real strategy. It's time to teach the agent to think ahead. So, everything we've built so far is what you'd call a reactive agent. It acts step by step, just figuring it out as it goes, which is fine, but it can get stuck or take a wrong turn. A planning agent, that's the next level. Think of it like the difference between just wandering around a new city versus mapping out your entire route first and then driving. It cuts down so much on wasted actions and costly mistakes. This map then drive pattern has 3 really clear steps. First, the agent plans. It generates the steps, thinks about the risks, and even sets rules for when to abort. Second, and this is so key for safety, it stops and asks for human approval. Only after a human says yes, go ahead, does it move to step 3 and actually executes that approved plan. And here's a little pro tip for you. There's a common failure mode called amnesia, where the agent literally forgets what it's doing halfway through a long plan. The solution is surprisingly simple. On every single step of the execution, you have to remind the agent of the overall goal. That's it. It just keeps it focused and right on track. And so that brings us to our final architecture. See? It's not one big magic box. It's a system of components all stacked on top of each other. We've got our reliable engine at the very bottom. On top of that, we have tools for acting, that 2-part memory system, RAG for grounding, and the planner for strategy. All these modules work together, they stack up to create one single reliable assistant. Which brings us to the final and, I think, the most important takeaway from all of this. As these systems get more and more capable, they just can't be black boxes. I mean, think about it. If an AI is going to act on your behalf, you really should know how it's built. And understanding these different layers, well, it's the first and most important step.